This is actually a very good spiritual practice, no? To have kids. It is one of the greatest, I think. So when we then feel, oh, I have no time for meditation, I have no time for this and that in terms of practice, we have to understand that, there may be then a shift towards different kinds of practice that are more compatible, let's say, with having kids. And in any case, no, it is the choice to have kids. So then we also should not resist that. It is a dharma, no? If you make kids, you take care of them, whatever it takes. And that also actually comes quite naturally. So, but okay, I can understand, especially in today's like small family kind of situation, that often one, maybe the wife, or usually the wife, ends up with those kids and then feels all day she is like working to keep these kids happy, and there's no time for her own practice, and then how can she evolve spiritually. So this is actually where this question comes from. But in any case, any such resistance is not going to work very well, no? We have to accept that we are then in this different situation, and then see what we can do with that. And okay, to defend some time for practice still is a part of that, in whatever situation you are. Some practice, like for which you withdraw from everybody and everything and can really go inside, is required, is healthy, you could say, for everybody, but is also required for spiritual growth. So to some degree we can defend that. And then okay, the partner or other people, they have to kind of fit in, and also the kids have to learn that. I remember when I had my son, I was taking care for him on my own for a long time, and then he knew very well, I used to get up very early in the morning before he woke up, so that I would have time for practice. But if then anyhow he woke and came down and I was not finished, then he knew he would just come and lay in my lap and be quite still and enjoying togetherness while I was, let's say, finishing my meditation. Okay, maybe not with the same amount of concentration, but still, now kids can learn that. Even I think when he learned that, he was maybe 3, 4 years old. So that is something which is definitely possible. And anyhow, for the ego, having kids is one of the best practices. Uh, because once you have kids, then you are no longer number one. Until we become a mother or a father, then generally speaking, we look upon ourselves and our desires as the most important thing. And we are mostly involved with what we can get, and so then you have kids, and that totally changes. No, first you need to make them happy, and only if they are happy, maybe you get some time on your own to do what you like to do. So that's a big shift. It's not easy. No, some people, I think, they really need to fight for some time with themselves to keep their own desires in check and not feel like this is so much of a problem to set them aside for a while. Anyhow, the kids will grow up, and let's say from 10 years old onwards, they will start more and more taking care of themselves. And at some point, even, you're happy to see them. So then you will have time for all that, for which maybe while you were raising these kids, you do not have the time, understanding that this is going to transform you. Maybe many of the desires that you had when you started, this game of having kids, and which seemed very important and under pressure at that time, maybe by the time they leave the house, these desires will also have totally disappeared. No? And while then you would have the time to pursue them, you would no longer be at all interested. No? So that is the power of this, spiritual practice of raising kids, no? Which is definitely there. To have kids is a real great opener for the heart chakra, because you are like going above the basic desires of the first three chakras, which are quite selfish. And your love for the kid is quite unconditional. No? Okay, it differs maybe a little bit in one person to another, how far that goes. But still, most parents will say, yeah, even when I'm angry with them, I still love them. Yeah? that is that is how it is with your own kid. You can't help it. It's your blood, it's your child. It's, you feel so connected, and in that way, it is a beautiful thing to experience also this. And I think most people will experience it in a way that they cannot with let's say their partner or other family members. And so that experience in itself, and to also live it and let's say then do the sacrifice that is always there when love is there. That is great for spiritual growth, and it will change a person and bring a lot of progress. So definitely we should not feel like we cannot progress there or learn something there. Even just like kids will teach you so much to be here and now. No? So this is so important in spirituality, that we learn that we learn to distance ourselves from yesterday and tomorrow, and that's basically how kids are. No? And so yeah, to be with them teaches you so many things. Actually, if you see how they evolve, you will also see many things there about yourself, because many of the problems that they are facing, you are still facing. No? In a way, we are all still children. No? And then you love them and you help them with that, and that will also very much change how you feel about yourself and your own, let's say, inner child, and your own difficulty to give up of something, or let go of something. So it will definitely also generate a lot of self-love. In the Indian way, up to 7 years, they say, no, kids are like kings or queens. They should be allowed to do whatever they want, as long as they don't hurt themselves or anybody else. As long as they don't create any like dangerous situation, they are treated as such, and whatever desire they have, okay, they will try to meet it, as long as it's not unhealthy, like sweets or anything like that. They will definitely limit, but still, basically, they will not very much restrain kids. But that does not mean that a kid, even at a very young age, cannot learn that some moments and some places, maybe also in the house, are supposed to be more quiet. For example, I've seen many kids growing up in ashrams, and these kids, even though they were very young, they could very well see that, and know very well that the morning meditation time is not the time to start yelling or, running around and creating a lot of noise. That is a respect that they can have even at that age, or to know that, like the meditation room or some other place which is used maybe also for puja, for rituals, that there they should behave more calmly. That they can learn, and that is very good for them to learn. For example, that in the morning, for them also, it is better not to like become too hectic. That is better to start the day in a calm way. These are things they can learn already from a very young age. And in a way, we are all people pleasers, and definitely children are people pleasers. So they like to do what mommy and daddy would like them to do, actually. Sometimes, of course, they will resist it. But generally speaking, if you can show them, okay, in the morning when I'm meditating, please don't start jumping around, and you also give them positive feedback whenever then they do that. It's about raising a kid. Yeah. So then definitely you can have that space, I think. Actually, and then from 7 onwards, then it totally changes. This is when they, like in Brahmin family, they get shaved and there's like a ceremony. It's an important time. And then it's totally the opposite. Like some scriptures, even then they put them in the description of slaves, no? From kings to slaves. No? Then they have to help. They get lots of tasks. They have to study, of course, also hard. They have to be obedient and respectful, and they are really trained then, no? To enter the next phase. So definitely from that age onwards, no, we can be quite strict with them and really demand some kind of freedom then for our own practice. So it's actually only in the first 7 years that, okay, some time for practice may be less. Some time for practice outside, let's say, of life we have to have. And if it's only a short time, if it's only 20 minutes, if it's only half hour that we can get, okay, then that also is not little actually, no? Because if we have 1 hour, we take 1 hour, no? If we have half hour, we only take half hour. That means, how much time sometimes we spend there trying to meditate, but not really making the effort. If we know we only have that half hour, then, we may be more focused from the beginning, no? and still gain quite a lot of that. But okay, it's not easy if at the same time kids are running around the house and you don't know what they're doing because the husband, I don't know, is off to work or the wife is off to work. Then yeah, for sure it's hard. No? It's, as I said, also a little bit the failure in our nuclear family system. No? If you look in the older cultures, they all have these communal family systems where many more people than only mommy, daddy, and the kids are living together, and then always some aunt or grandma or grandpa or whatever is around to take care of the kids whenever somebody needs a little time for themselves. No? So okay, we don't want to really go back, I think, to that time. Too much of a generation gap, to make that really work. But we can also try to do it in another way and connect to other parents with children and, find ways in which each can then get some more free time, maybe also to spend as a couple or whatever, and support each other there. To have a little community of your own somehow is definitely needed, I think, when you have kids. So, and then apart from the practice on the mat, let's say, outside of life, there is then a lot of practice that can be done in life where the kids make no difference at all. Jnana yoga, to think truth, to speak truth, also to your kids, is a strict practice, very important. Bhakti yoga with kids, it's fantastic. To chant together bhajans. Bhajans are very simple songs. Kids can easily learn that. You can do that. Kids love puja. To pick flowers and to bring them there and to offer them there and to do some chanting and things like that. These are things which are very, very possible. To do some karma yoga, like maybe if the kids are a little bit older, to teach them that we can go and help somebody without expecting anything in return. Do something good in society. These are things that are very good to do with kids. And many other things I think is also compatible. And there I think one has to teach kids also that presence and attention are maybe a different thing, but they are still the same thing. And what I mean with that is that, it's not because you are in the same room with your kid that you have to be like directly involved with what the kid is doing to be there for them. That is something which can be taught at a very early age, and in a way it corresponds to this very general idea which I've been putting forward quite a lot of unity and diversity. And to teach kids this, that it is possible, let's say, for them to make their own drawing and you to make a yantra drawing, let's say, that it is totally possible to do that together and to be happy to be doing that together, even though you are both doing your own thing somehow. I think in many couples this is also already a problem. In many couples they feel we are together only when we are doing something together. But it's actually great as a couple if you can be in the same room and each is doing his own thing. But now and then, okay, there may be some interaction, or I don't know, one makes a cup of tea, or you're together, but you're still at the same time also respecting this diversity that is there and that is very natural, in which one has more interest to do this and the other has more interest to do that. If you try to kind of always force the other to join you in whatever you want to do, then that is also not very healthy. No? So kids can learn that from a very young age. We are together, yes, I am here to take care for you whenever you really need something, yes, but I'm doing this and you are doing that. And in that way, still a lot can be done. Maybe also some reading of spiritual books, or many other things, studying can be done. No? Keeping inner silence also. One of the main practices is perfect to do with kids. No? Because anyhow their chit chatter doesn't matter so much. No? And if something really does matter, you'll hear it and you'll respond to it. But for the rest, you don't need to think about all the things a kid is saying, because it's just like an endless stream of thoughts coming out and experiences being shared. And instead of like being there and trying to also then have your own thoughts, which we usually feel so very important, while the kid is totally like disturbing your thoughts all the time by talking, why not practice inner silence? No? That is something which suits there perfectly. No? And so in that way, there are still many things that can be done. I would say only really the Ashtanga practice of going inside, that is the most difficult. No? So for that, we try to reserve a bit of time. But still, many of the other limbs of Ashtanga Yoga we can practice. Yama and Niyama can be very well practiced in that way. And, some stretching, maybe not the ideal asana sequence, but some in-between stretching. You just, whatever you would maybe do in 1 hour, you just spread it out all over the day, and whenever you have a minute, you do the forward bends or you do the backward bends or something, and the kids might like it also, and might start, I don't know, copying you or trying to copy you or things like that. And so that can be actually quite a lot of fun. And massage, if you look in India, massage is in many families, and especially then in the family of Harish Johari, very present, and especially with kids. Kids love massage, and they love giving a massage also. Kids are there taught from a very young age to give, like, let's say, the grandma and the grandpa foot massage, things like that. So these are things which can also be very helpful, on the level of the body, and maybe in that way compensate a bit for not being able to do that 1 hour of full asana sequence. Same way breathing. Nothing stops you from holding your breath while you're with your kid, or from breathing more slowly, or for watching your nostrils, for working a little bit of alternate nostril breathing. All these techniques you can very easily combine it. You can fast from so many things. That is also a part of the spiritual practice, where your kids will never be really the problem. Maybe, okay, a full food fast for many days, you cannot handle it with the kids together. That, no. But still fasting from this food or that food which you feel you are using in excess, or fasting from social media or other things which are a little bit too much. All these things you are totally able to do. No? Maybe one last thing there to say is that if you have kids, then it is a lot of work, and especially in the first years, it is a lot of work. So then if you keep working full time as a couple both, then I think you are making a mistake, because that's just too much, I think. And then you'll end up with kids who don't get enough attention, and in that way they start behaving quite badly, so that even then makes the time that you do have together quite difficult. So somehow or other, preferably like managed same way for both in a couple, you a little bit have to reduce the amount of time that you work, go to 4/5 or whatever. I mean, that's a detail you have to figure out yourself, but somehow this idea of a couple both working full time, it's very recent. This only came like after Second World War, gradually, that women started to work next to the men, and they have every right to, and it gives them a certain independence also, which is important. But yeah, it it does mean instead of only one having to go to work and the other one being able to run the household and the kids, now both have to go to work and then still manage the household and the kids. And okay, we now have also washing machines and other machines which help us with that, but still, householding and kids is work. So it should also be recognized as such. And especially if a couple is spiritually inclined, it should be understood that somehow or other the amount of work and whatever then relates to that, other desires of maybe having your own house, or some people just have too many projects running, and in that way any kind of spiritual development is very difficult. So that is actually one of the main things, or one of the main mistakes which I see people make there.